Bitter criticism with those bad dogs. Bad dog. People say Milou is catching people. I mean, haunting. Not haunting, but disturbing the... I didn't know that. I mean, I guess Milou wants to make friends like that. I guess people don't want to be friends of Milou because he don't looks like, I don't know, a fine dog. I mean, fine. Because Milou doesn't like a breed dog. Understand? So I guess people don't want to be make a friendship with Milou and Mursi. And well, and that's why Milou when I first met Milou, he was on the streets. I mean, in one particular house. In that house, he always had this behavior. I don't dislike this behavior, you know. And well, looking the stature, the size, the Milou size, I will never fear. No. You know, there's dogs. Yeah, there are dogs very small or smaller than Milou, even smaller than Milou, I guess, that they are really violent. And the question about Milou is that he is not violent. He just he didn't bite, understand? And Mursi neither. So I left them, and well, I didn't realize that people don't want to make friends with Milou and Mursi. So that's the problem. People don't... Milou and Mursi, people should... they stop barking. If you talk to them, you know, if you talk to them something, they stop barking. But that's not the case with people here. They don't want to make friends with Milou and Mursi and so on. Well, and I'm going to read some news. September 18th, this is a national holiday in Chile. September 18th, home world news. Fyodor Lukyanov, the real reason the US wants to silence Russia Today. Exclusive article about Russia Today themselves. Fyodor Lukyanov, the real reason why the US, the real reason the US wants to silence Russia Today. Even the Soviets readily revealed that blocking media outlets was counterproductive. I'm not sure about that, which says a lot about Washington's strategy. I'm not sure about this. I guess Stalin censored everything, I guess. So I'm just going to... I hope Fyodor Lukyanov come back to that comment about Soviets. By Fyodor Lukyanov, the editor-in-chief in Global Affairs, chairman of the Presidium of the Council of Foreign and Defense Policy, and researcher director of the Valdai Club, the Valdai International Discussion Club. We have a photograph. File photo. Russia Today English language newsroom. In late 1986, Yegor Ligachev, the secretary of Soviet Communist Party Central Committee, and Viktor Shebrikov, the then head of the KGB, proposed that the country end the practice of jamming foreign radio stations. Enemy voices was the popular term used at the time to describe this broadcast from abroad. But you know, 1986 it was too late, you know. It was far too late. I mean, Soviet Union, it was since 1920, you know. It's been 60 years, 66 years. That's just too much. With a terrible dictatorship. Enemy voices was the popular term used at the time to describe this broadcast from abroad. What Fyodor Lukyanov should say is that America will collapse, you know, just like the Soviet Union, I guess. Of course, the two prominent officials were not imbued with bourgeois ideas when seeking to end radio jamming. They were actually taking a business-like approach. The pair exclaimed to the Central Committee that blocking was expensive but not very effective. Given the size of the country. So it was suggested that signal jamming be abandoned, and that funds be diverted to counter propaganda measures. This means more active work with foreign audiences to communicate the Soviet Union's own views on world events. A few weeks later, at a meeting with US President Donald Reagan in Iceland, USSR leader Mikhail Gorbachev raised the issue. He said, quote, "Our radio station Voice of America broadcasts around the clock in many languages from stations you have in different countries in Europe and Asia. And we can present our point of view to the American people. So for the sake of equality, we have to jam the Voice of America broadcast." Gorbachev offered to stop blocking VOA, Voice of America, I guess, if his counterpart agreed to let Moscow have a frequency to do the same in the US. Reagan evasively promised to consult when he returned home. In the end, the Soviets stopped jamming foreign radio stations unilaterally without any deal. Yeah, so sad. Yeah, so what this means is that America never followed the agreements and is not a real democracy, but because back in the 80s you could listen Russian Soviet radio in America. And there's more. Meta bans Russia Today. So terrible. We don't have Russia Today anymore on Facebook. I will check it out. The events of the last few days have echoes of this old story. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken devoted an entire speech to Russia Today, which is subject to full blocking. That's a new formula. A full blocking sanctions for its supposedly destructive and subversive work around the world. According to Blinken and the American intelligence agencies, he references the threat posed by the Russian company is of the highest order and requires the most decisive measures from all of Washington's allies. Without irony or exaggeration, it can be said that Russia Today could only dream of the global recognition that Blinken's appeal has facilitated. The effectiveness of the media group was not so much confirmed as it was certified, and by prominent representatives of its rivals. We could deplore infringements on freedom of expression and restrictions on pluralism of opinion. But there is a little point in doing so. Such such notions should be prompt in relation to the internal information space of individual countries at a national level. They are indispensable prerequisites for normal development. As for foreign sources of information, people generally perceive them as instruments of influence, and it hardly depends on the type of socio-political system that exists in a given state. The more comprehensive the information and communication environment, the greater its impact on people's behavior, and the more acute the desire of governments to tighten control over the flow of ideas and analysis. The international media sphere is deliberately ideological, electrified, and conflictual. Hence, Blinken's, shall we say, uncharacteristic remarks that Russia today should be treated, quote, like an intelligence agency. Well, this is pretty vague from Anthony Blinken, because if you write a simple phrase, a simple statement, that is intelligence too, pretty vague. Anyway, how effective are the tactics of restricting alternative views and jamming radio waves? Comrade Ligachev and Shebrikov rightly pointed out that the costly efforts to jam hostile broadcasters were, to put it mildly, not particularly effective. Worst, as the author well remembers, the very fact that the authorities were fighting foreign radio voices had the opposite effect to that desired if they were silencing voices. It meant that they were afraid of the truth. And by the end of the Soviet era, this option was not only widespread among the frontline intelligentsia. Many ordinary people also didn't give a damn about the official channels. Yeah, in Soviet Union, I guess. By the end of the Soviet era, this opinion was not only widespread among the frontline intelligentsia, many ordinary people also didn't give a damn about the official channels. Yeah, I guess. Yeah, because of the institutionalization of the message, the institutional message sucks, I guess. At their meeting in Iceland, Reagan countered Gorbachev's appeal by saying that, unlike the Soviets, quote, we recognize freedom of press and the right of people to listen to any point of view. End of quote. The US president had no doubts about the superiority of the American system in all respects. Accordingly, the demands for information pluralism then and later reflected the confidence of Washington that it will emerge victorious from any competition. And so a few years later, the US achieved a de facto monopoly on the interpretation of everything. Washington's current extreme reaction is due to the feeling that it's losing this monopoly. Alternative interpretations of events now arouse public interest. In fact, the total resources of the Western, mainly English language media, are incomparably greater than what all the carriers of alternative points of view can offer at this moment. But internal insecurity is growing all by itself, fueling the desire to fence off the information space. From the same playbook comes the US attempts to explain its internal strife and accumulated contradictions by pointing to a pernicious external influence. This was also the Soviet experience. However, the Soviet Union didn't solve its own issues by blaming them on external causes. In fact, as its problem grew, those same outside factors actually began to exacerbate them. Targeted punitive actions can create obstacles for any organization. There is no doubt about that, especially when they come from what is still the most powerful country on the planet. But American history teaches us that monopolies do not last forever. Sooner or later, a cartel becomes a brake on development. Yeah, then it becomes the subject of measures to break it up. This is dialectical, isn't it? This dialectical. Now America is the great, but it's interesting because uh, it's a declining empire, but they keep this freedom, you know. But I guess this liberalism, I guess everybody knows this now. Neoliberalism uh, made their own decadence in the West, you know. China is thriving, is making good deals, and the West is just declining, you know. There's misery all around the West. Anyway, the West maybe is not, yeah, maybe this is the dystopia. We are living the dystopia right now because there's still business opportunities, you know. There's still but it's not for all, and the main world is absolutely declining, is absolute in absolute decadence. Maybe that's the forever decadence, you know. Maybe we are living the future, and yeah, this is just what I this is what we have right now in another article. September 17th, yesterday, Home World News. U.S. censorship, a sign of decline. Analysts to Russia Today. BRICS nations should have their own social media, Iranian professor Syed Mohammed Marandi believes. Professor Marandi from Iran. He studied in England, I guess. BRICS nations should have their own social media. I guess they have. Maybe they are here talking about his own platform. I guess they have their own platforms, you know. But unfortunately, I will tell you that Brazil is a dominated country by the US. I was living in Brazil. Friends of everybody, Pepe Escobar says the same thing. Brazil has no sovereignty. Anyway, the decision by American tech giant Meta to ban Russia Today and other Russian news networks is a symptom of the dwindling power of the US and its allies. Iranian professor Syed Mohammed Marandi has suggested. The Tehran University academic spoke to Russia Today on Tuesday about the latest crackdown on Russian media by the US government and Meta, which owns Facebook and Instagram. Quote, major social media companies are controlled by the United States. They are effectively arms of the state, Marandi said, explaining why he believes Meta's decision should be seen as a move by Washington. The US previously tolerated some dissenting opinions in the press, but is increasingly silencing them completely or shadowing banning voices it dislikes, the professor added. Quote, as the West further declines, I think that intolerance is just going to increase more, he predicted. BRICS nations should do the same thing with social media, and they are doing with international commerce, where they are introducing payment methods and other financial mechanisms independent of the US dollar, Marandi suggested. Quote, if the regime in Washington wants to control X or Facebook, fine, but they shouldn't be able to prevent Iranians from saying what they want to say, or Russians from being able to speak to the world, or Chinese people from being able to speak to their neighbors, he said. Yeah, I guess Russia has his own YouTube. Air YouTube. Air YouTube. Yeah. I will show you. I guess it calls Air YouTube. Look. AirTube. AirTube is like in a U. Air YouTube. Yeah, look. The Air YouTube in Cyrillic. Unfortunately, it's in Cyrillic. Look. This is the Russian YouTube. So the Russian did it. The airyoutube.com .ru. Well done, I guess. Yeah. So yeah, the Russian people are great. Despite the small size of their economy, they are doing great. They always do great. And well, I'm going to read more news from Russia today, just one or two. I'm going to read the previous one. Meta bans Russia today. Meta bans Russia today. September 17. Facebook's owner has announced the move after Washington claimed Russian outlets are espionage offshoots. Terrible, because after what happened with the beepers, the Motorola beepers, the West is so much worse. And well, espionage. What is espionage anyway? Communication is communication espionage. Home Russia and former Soviet Union. We have a file photo, a smartphone with the Meta logo. US tech giant Meta, which owns Facebook and Instagram, has banned several Russian news networks, including Russia Today, since the escalation of the Ukraine conflict in 2022. Meta has been cooperating with a prohibition on Russia Today imposed by the EU and other individual Western nations. In a statement on Monday, the company said the platforming of the media outlets from its apps is due to foreign interference activity and will be implemented globally over the next several days. The US government sanctioned Russia Today last week, with Secretary of State Antony Blinken claiming that the outlet is, quote, functioning as a de facto arm of Russian intelligence. Antony Blinken is so stupid. I mean, he's so weak. Anyway, it's so vague. Moscow has called the move an act of information warfare, which exposes America's inability to fairly compete with Russian media. US officials have expressed frustrations with Russia Today's role in offering an alternative to Washington-backed narratives on international affairs. Quote, one of the reasons, not the only reason, why so much of the world has not been as fully supportive of Ukraine as you would think they will be, given that Russia has invaded Ukraine and violated rule number 1 of the international system, is because of the broad scope and reach of Russia Today, where propaganda, disinformation and lies is spread to millions, if not billions, around the world. State Department spokesman Jamie Rubin told journalists on Friday following Blinken's remarks. I guess Russia Today is absolutely right about the Nazism, about banderism in the Donbass. I guess everybody who supports Russia Today, like Scott Ritter, they are absolutely right. Uh, yeah, I have zero money from Gazprom. Nobody watched this show. Anyway, I'm going to read more news about this. Russia Today editor-in-chief Margarita Simonian, beautiful baby, joked that Russia Today had learned from the Americans rather than from Russian intelligence officers. Seriously, did you run out our mirrors? She asked, commenting on the American allegations. Meta has faced legal issues in Russia after allowing exemptions in its rules forbidding hate speech. Meta management ruled that Ukrainians were entitled to call for violence against Russians and to hail extreme nationalists fighting against Russia on its platforms. Moscow labeled Meta as an extremist organization and banned Facebook and Instagram in Russia. Terrible. Well, the America will collapse in 5 months. That's the great news. September 15th, Meta bans Russia Today as Western crackdown continues. 2022 to 2024 overview. Western nations have intensified efforts to limit Russia Today's reach in recent years through sweeping sanctions and media restrictions. We have a file photo of Russia Today. The Russian multimedia broadcaster Russia Today has faced unprecedented scrutiny and restrictions from Western countries in recent years. The measures taken against the outlet have escalated significantly from 2024 through 2022 through 2024. The increasing efforts by Western nations to curtail Russia Today's influence and operational capacity reflect broader geopolitical tensions and fears about a changing media landscape. 2022, a year of tightening measures. The year 2022 marked a pivotal moment for Russia Today and Western nations, and entities began imposing stringent measures against the network. In February, major broadcasters Foxtel in Australia and Sky New Zealand ceased airing Russia Today. By March, the wave of restrictions expanded significantly. Meta, which includes platforms such as Facebook and Instagram, restricted access to Russia Today and Sputnik. The Russian state-founded news agency across the European Union due to the conflict in Ukraine. Simultaneously, X, formerly Twitter, and other platforms finalized shadow bans, further reducing the visibility of Russia Today's content. The European Union implemented a comprehensive ban on Russia Today and Sputnik, blocking them on satellites, websites, and social media. Financial transactions to and from Russia were also restricted. The UK media regulator Ofcom revoked Russia Today's broadcasting license, initiating 29 investigations into the channel's coverage of Ukraine from alleged lack of impartiality. YouTube permanently removed Russia Today and Sputnik accounts, while TikTok and Telegram also blocked Russia Today accounts across the US, EU, and Canada. The EU's ban was described as an exceptional and temporary measure by the European Commission representative. In the Netherlands, the internet providers blocked Russia Today and Sputnik websites, while the International Council of Austria prohibited Russia Today broadcasts to curb fake news about Ukraine. Société Générale, a French bank, blocked the salary accounts of Russia Today French employees. The UK imposed sanctions on Russia Today, closing its bureau and restricting financial operations under threat of criminal charges. In the US, satellite operators DirecTV, AT&T, and Dish TV, as well as OTT operator Roku, removed Russia Today America from their lineups. Canada follows suit with the RTC revoking Russia Today's license, and major cable providers like Rogers and Shaw Cable halting broadcasts. Russia Today's online presence was further diminished as Google blocked its sites from recommended services, and app stores like Apple and Google removed the Russia Today app. So this is very good news for me because I don't have an iPhone. I don't live in the global north, I'm free. That's paradoxical, isn't it? I'm free because I'm a slave. I'm free because I'm slavery. In December, the European Union imposed sanctions on ANO TV Novosti, Russia Today's parent organization, underscoring the continued pressure. 2023 continued restrictions. The restrictive measures against Russia Today persisted into 2023. In January, all Russia Today France accounts were blocked in France by the main Treasury Department. The EU banned Russia Today Arabic and Sputnik Arabic broadcasts in February. In March, German authorities froze the accounts of Russia Today DE Productions GmbH. By June, the EU had added Russia Today Balkan to its list of banned broadcasters as part of a new sanctions package. 2024 intensified sanctions and diplomatic campaigns. The pressure on Russia Today reached new heights in 2024. The US imposed sanctions against Russia Today, its founder Margarita Simonian, and several top executives. The sanctions also targeted RIA Novosti, Sputnik, and Rupli. It's good to know because sometimes I want to diversify my newspapers. I'm going to print this and then I will check it out. Sputnik, Rupli, RIA Novosti. Definitely I will check it out. The FBI labeled Russia Today as a tool of Russian government propaganda. What about The Guardian? What about The Guardian? About The Guardian with parental advisory against parental control over social media. Anyway, the US also sanctioned 3 entities and 2 individuals associated with Russia Today, including for operations in Moldova. Secretary of State Antony Blinken criticized Russia Today for undermining democracy and US elections. A coordinated diplomatic campaign by the UK and Canada intends to treat Russia Today's actions as intelligence operations, with a particular focus on its growing influence in the global south. Yeah, unfortunately, I will repeat that Chile is just a Philippines. It's not proper a global south. Well, Philippines and Chileans, they are crazy. They are slaves from the empire, and they are happy, or they prefer to be junkies. They prefer to take drugs. That's the whole truth about Chile and Philippines. They are junkies. The US also sanctioned 3 entities and 2 individuals associated with Russia Today, including for operations in Moldova. Secretary of State Antony Blinken criticized Russia Today for undermining democracy and US elections. Undermine democracy. Terrible democracy. People starving democracy, you know. People are in misery in democracy. A coordinated diplomatic campaign by the UK and Canada intends to treat Russia Today's actions as intelligence operations, with a particular focus on its growing influence in the global south. The FBI conducted a raid involving 20 agents of a Russia Today employees residence in the US, subjecting her questioning about Russia Today's leadership and operations. Meta, which owns Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp, has banned Russia Today and other Russian state-linked media outlets from its apps globally over what the company called foreign interference activity. So, not great news for the world, but for me is I don't know. Do you want to access Russia Today? You can do it in Chile. you can read Russia Today in Chile. You cannot watch it on YouTube. You know, it's interesting because because you know, I'm going to do the Al Jazeera genocide dossier. I guess Russia Today they try to move to Odyssey, but Odyssey is not that great, and then they found Air YouTube. Al Jazeera live updates. At least 3 reported killed, doesn't hurt in new wave of Lebanon blasts. Live updates. Israel war on Gaza live. 9 killed, 300 hurt in new Lebanon blasts. By Uroba Jamal and Federica Marci, September 18, 2024. Multiple blasts go off in different parts of Lebanon, killing at least 3 people, according to state media. A day after simultaneous explosions of Paggers used by Hezbollah's members killed 12 people and wounded thousands. It's terrible because this death of these people with Paggers is terrible because a Motorola Pagger is like a weapon. Die by a weapon is terrible because it's an explosion on your body, you understand? It's terrible. Those 12 people killed with severe injuries in their bodies. The Lebanese group vowed retaliation as it held Israel, quote, fully responsible for the attacks and left at least 200 people in critical condition. Israel has declined to comment on the detonations. 8 minutes ago, UN chief calls for maximum restraint after Lebanon explosions. UN chief Antonio Guterres is deeply alarmed by reports that a large number of communication devices exploded across Lebanon. Quote, the Secretary General urges all concerned actors to exercise maximum restraint to avert any further escalation, his spokesman Stephane Dujarric said in a statement. Dujarric also urged parties to recommit to the full implementation of Security Council Resolution 1901, referring to the one that ended the 2006 war between Hezbollah and Israel. 13 minutes ago, breaking 9 killed, more than 300 wounded in latest device explosions. The Lebanese Health Ministry says 9 people have been killed and more than 300 are injured in today's communication device explosions. So, yeah, it's terrible because it's a paradox. You use these Motorola weapons from Israel to communicate, but these are exploding. What the hell? How the hell this happened? Because of the battery, I guess. Yeah. No, it's very dangerous, you know. You better don't be like cell phones, you know. This cell phone can kill me right now. Fortunately, it's a Xiaomi. It's not a Motorola. Pay attention to that. We are living in a very peculiar war, in a very peculiar warfare. I guess it's just like that. The Motorola, controlled by the US and Israel, they are killing people with these beepers, with these paggers. On Tuesday, blasting paggers used by Lebanon's Hezbollah group killed 12 people and wounded nearly 3,000, about 200 critically. Terrible, terrible. So it's time for Chinese communication devices. 21 minutes ago, analysis. Israel has mapped Hezbollah geolocations through AI since 2010. Military analyst Elijah Magnier says the ongoing attacks on communication systems in Lebanon bear the hallmarks of an initial salvo before launching in a major military operation. Quote, normally in every war, the first attack is on a command control base. And here Israelis are attacking the control, which is the communication. Crippling communication is vital in any war because it is the main spine of the enemy army. Magnier told Al Jazeera, Hezbollah commanders and fighters will now have to recover to mobile phones, and quote, the Israelis can connect to that machine and identify its location, he said. Terrible. I hope Chinese cell phones are different. Quote, they have access to all the communication systems because they've drawn the map of the whole area, as they have been working on this since 2010 using artificial intelligence, Magnier noted. Quote, now with the system they have used, they waited more than 24 hours to destroy the second and different communication system that Hezbollah railed on. And I guess that's it. And now it's just time for yoga. I'm going to show you something from Brazil, you know. Daniel Jadue chicken out. Daniel Jadue is not talking anymore.
Subterrâneo. A repórter Rafaela Ferreira acompanhou o trabalho de combate à queimada e traz mais detalhes. Somente em agosto, 6,65 milhões de hectares foram queimados no Brasil, o que equivale a quase metade de todas as queimadas que aconteceram no ano. No DF, o fogo tomou conta do Parque Nacional de Brasília no último domingo, deixando até o momento cerca de 2.400 hectares de reserva atingidos pelas chamas.
O parque foi objeto desse incêndio, é reflexo do que está acontecendo no Brasil inteiro. Hoje nós estamos em torno de 30 unidades de conservação, ou seja, parques nacionais, reservas, florestas, que também estão com incêndio. no Sudeste, no Centro-Oeste, Pantanal, né, por exemplo, na Caatinga e também na Amazônia. Então, esses incêndios, claro, a gente está num momento, né, de uma seca, parece ser a seca mais intensa nos últimos 75 anos, o que já é sinal de que a gente passa por mudança do clima. Então, aquelas pessoas que imaginavam que mudança do clima é uma coisa que não existe, eu acho que está sentindo na pele, está sentindo, né, na respiração como que isso é verdade, né? Na verdade, nós estamos passando por essa mudança.
O fogo que consome o Parque Nacional de Brasília já deixou parte da capital do país tomada pela fumaça. Em relação à fauna, não foram identificados animais feridos, segundo a chefia do parque. Com os sinais de controle do fogo, uma avaliação mais detalhada sobre o impacto do incêndio na fauna será iniciada em breve.
Estamos com a equipe do Centro de Pesquisa e Conservação do Cerrado, o CBC, em campo, juntamente com a equipe do Jardim Zoológico de Brasília, para fazer essa avaliação, e o apoio também da Polícia Militar Ambiental do Distrito Federal, caso seja identificado algum animal ferido, para destinação tanto para o centro de triagem do IBAMA, quanto para o Jardim Zoológico.
Até o momento, o fogo que atinge o parque não foi totalmente extinto, apesar de estar mais controlado.
Well, this Brazil de fato, Brazil in fact something. Well, is happening. There's happening a fire bush. There's fire bushes in Brazil, and there's a debate, a huge debate about these fires. Huge fires, unbelievable huge. And well, the left is talking about the right responsibility in previous governments of Bolsonaro. I guess I'm completely ignorant about this, but this is all about global change, isn't it? People was saying that Brazil will turn into a desert because of those videos about this. If search a video, if when the earth warmed 4 Celsius degrees,